Thank you for joining us. I know many of you are joining from around the nation, so good afternoon and good evening. We're delighted to see you here. And we're going to begin with just some housekeeping. So as you've been coming in, you are muted to help us control background noise, but please make sure your chat is open. And as we get started, we are going to be using the chat a lot, so make sure that you have that. Oh, hello. I hear someone calling my name. Hello. So yeah, let's get started and we can just go through some housekeeping as we do some introductions. So I want to begin by introducing myself. I'm Tony Guglielmo, Executive Director of ARTEFFECT, and I'm based here in Santa Monica, California. I've been leading ARTEFFECT for about 3 years in this position, and joined with my teammates here, who I'd like to introduce. First, we have Connor Walden, who is joining us. Connor?
Yes, hello everybody. My name's Connor. I'm a product manager here with Artifacts, and I'm joining from Santa Monica. And we're just so thrilled to have you all here tonight. And yeah, glad to have you here.
And also on our team here in Santa Monica is Kate Rose, Program Coordinator.
Hello, everyone. Excited to see some familiar faces and some new one. And yeah, Megan has a great presentation tonight.
Great, thank you, Connor and Kate. And also on our team is our founder, Mr. Bo Milken, who is founder of the Bo Milken Center for Unsung Heroes and founder of ARTEFFECT, and is our guiding vision for this program. So thank you to our founder. And I invite you all to post a greeting in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from. And we have joining us this evening, I know many of you from across the nation. We also have our ambassadors joining. ARTEFFECT Ambassadors is a professional development program. We're into year 3 of this program. We have outstanding and top educators working with students in grades 6 through 12 who have taken on an online fellowship, bringing the stories of unsung heroes into their classrooms and communities. This is an annual cohort, and we have 28 in this year's group. So welcome to all of our ambassadors joining far and wide. This is our 5th out of 6 modules, so we're almost to the end of our program, and it's delighted to see so many of you on the call again this evening. And I believe that Kate is posting some of the links in the chat so you can follow along. And I want to also let you know that we have a lesson plan for you this evening, so that will be posted in the chat as well. So for those of you that are new to the program, I want to begin with an overview of ARTEFFECT, and just to give you a sense of what we're doing here. We are focused on, well, we're a visual arts education initiative, and we are focused on celebrating and creatively interpreting the stories of unsung heroes from history through the visual arts and arts integration. ARTEFFECT offers professional development like this session, as well as the Ambassadors Fellowship. We also offer annual student art competitions and exhibitions. And we will be telling you more about the competition and exhibitions later in this program. So as we look at the unsung heroes, I know that we've been hearing this term a lot, and I just wanted to take a moment to define that for everyone. So unsung heroes, the way that we look at these individuals from history, are really as role models, people who have done extraordinary things, extraordinary actions in service to others in society that have had a profound, positive, and lasting impact on others and the course of history. So we have over 150 individuals on a growing list of our unsung heroes that span the centuries. And as I mentioned, they've demonstrated altruistic traits such as courage, compassion, perseverance, conviction. They've taken actions to unite, to build bridges, to challenge assumptions, to face prejudice. So these are some of the elements that are embedded throughout the various ARTEFFECT lesson plans and into our program tonight as well. So we invite you, we're going to show you some of the resources where you can learn about the stories of these unsung heroes and introduce them and bring them into your classrooms and communities as we go through the program. And it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker and our instructor for this evening, Megan Helberg. So Megan is just a champion of Holocaust education. She's an expert in this field, and we are really privileged to have her leading this session, Remembering the Holocaust. Megan has, as you can see, a number of awards, and I just wanted to highlight that she has been instrumental in helping us with ARTEFFECT, the launch of this program. And this is her second time teaching this session. She's developed an amazing lesson plan that we're posting in the chat that we invite you to follow along. Megan was the 2020 Nebraska Teacher of the Year and was also a 2021 Lowell Milken Center Fellow. She continues to work with the Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes, guiding their fellows and the Discovery Award in project-based learning. She received the distinguished honor of being named the Anne Frank Center Educator of the Year, and now is the Program Coordinator and National Ambassador at the Anne Frank Center. As I mentioned, we are just so honored to have her guide us through this topic this evening. And I'm going to turn it over now to Megan and invite her to share a little bit more about her background with you. Welcome,
Great.
Megan.
Thank you, Tony. It's wonderful to be here this evening and representing the Lowell Milken Center and ARTEFFECT. It is a truly wonderful organization that I've been able to be a part of, and as well as my students, and it has brought them many opportunities. I'm from Taylor, Nebraska, a town of 150 people. And so something that really always strikes me about the Lowell Milken Center and their projects is that they are not just focused in urban hubs, but they will go to nooks and crannies all across the country to honor students and teachers for their work. So you guys are in a great group here. Stick with it. The opportunities are endless as you continue on through all of the educational and personal and professional opportunities through the Lowell Milken Center and ARTEFFECT and all of the Unsung Hero projects. So as Tony said, I was a classroom teacher for 16 years in rural Nebraska, and it was a dream job. And I thought I would be doing that for the rest of my life and be very happy with that. I have been interested in Holocaust and genocide education for many years now, and it has taken me all over the world to 6 different continents. I just got to get to Antarctica one of these days. But it's all the people that you meet through Holocaust education has been really enriching to my life, and I have learned from some amazing scholars and researchers and authors in the field, and it has helped me to figure out how best I can communicate that back to my students, my community, and now in my new job with the Anne Frank Center. So I now work for the Anne Frank Center. It is a wonderful organization. I think they put a link in the chat if you'd like to learn more about it. We have all sorts of different educational opportunities for schools across the country. And so it's instead of just teaching about the Holocaust for one unit out of the school year, now I get to do that daily. And that really does lift, it fills my bucket. That is what I feel the most passionate about. So it's been a welcome change, and I'm getting used to it, but I'm loving traveling all across the country and visiting schools and libraries and museums from coast to coast. So tonight, I guess we can go ahead and advance the slide. All right. So the agenda for tonight is really focusing on remembering the Holocaust through art. And there's some important conversations that we need to have around that with our students and also with ourselves, and kind of thinking about our own communities and our own schools. We each have different things going on that impact how we teach, how our students receive information. And so it's really important that we can't just jump in and do Holocaust art. There needs to be some thought behind it and a good foundational knowledge of how to approach this. So we're going to go through, is it appropriate to remember the Holocaust through artistic representation? That's kind of the first basic question that we need to ask ourselves. Is it even appropriate? Number two, we'll go through guidelines for teaching about the Holocaust. Bridging with visual art, we'll look at some examples there for viewing some Holocaust artwork. We'll delve in a little bit into Irina Sendler, who I think probably most of you are familiar with, but just want to make sure we have that understanding of Irina Sendler and how she really kind of kickstarted the Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes and her work. Then we are going to analyze some student artwork that has been submitted through ARTEFFECT over the previous years. And then we'll have some time for discussion and Q&A at the end. I would encourage you to have some paper and pencil handy. I'm going to ask you to reflect for different instances as we're viewing some Holocaust art and as I pose some questions to you. We're not necessarily going to all chat about it or, all the time, but just kind of for your own journaling so you can remember this and then take it to your students. Okay, so step one, remembering the Holocaust through visual art. So there's a few questions just to get us started here. I know we have all sorts of different teachers and people on the call tonight. So even if you're not an art teacher, or even if you are, I'd like you to reflect on these. What is your level of comfort when it comes to discussing the Holocaust and genocide with your students? Now, with that one, even if you are an art teacher, you're thinking, well, I don't have to be an expert about the Holocaust to teach Holocaust art. And you are correct. You do not have to be an expert about the Holocaust to help your students represent the Holocaust through art. But it is important that you have done a little bit of homework and kind of have that foundational knowledge. And that's what tonight is going to help you with. Number two, what would make you feel confident in your ability to lead a lesson about visual representations of the Holocaust and other genocides? So I want you to think, what can we do to help you? What can you do to help yourself? Where can you go to find additional resources after tonight? And number three, what tools or strategies have you used to facilitate thoughtful and appropriate classroom discussions about complex topics? The Holocaust is, of course, a complex topic, but there are other complex topics too. So hopefully some of these questions are obviously related to Holocaust art, but hopefully you can use them in other areas as well with your students if questions arise when you're covering other topics as well. So if you just want to jot down a few things or take a screenshot of this so you can be thinking about it, that would be great. All right, Connor, thank you. Okay, so remembering the Holocaust. Students explore the artistic aspects of pieces created during the Holocaust to gather context, knowledge, and understanding before their own projects. So as a teacher, as you're going, or maybe you're collaborating with an art teacher in your building, it's really important that just instead of, okay, guys, you're going to do a piece of artwork that represents the Holocaust, okay, and you just kind of cut them loose. It's really important that you go through kind of the pre-steps to that and have them look at artistic pieces relating to the Holocaust that are not their own first. So you can talk about those, you can see what's represented pictorially, thinking about different questions, which we're going to go over here. But it's really important that they don't start with something just first, that you are kind of building step by step before you actually let them then create their artwork. Remembering the Holocaust through art requires a high level of sensitivity and keen awareness of the complexity of the subject matter. Again, I don't want anyone to feel scared or intimidated about approaching the Holocaust through art, but it does require sensitivity. And you do have to have that kind of maturity as the adult in the room to help field different questions that may come in. And I always want to remind you, and as I remind myself often, is that it's okay to say, I don't know, to a student question. If there is something that they're asking about the Holocaust, it's really important, especially with this topic, that we do not make up answers or give kind of half answers, because that can be really dangerous when talking about the Holocaust. So it's really important to just know your own self too, and be aware of your, knowledge, and then the areas where you may lack some knowledge to say, you know what, I don't really know, but let's find out together, or let's look that up. Artistic representation of the Holocaust has become a matter of some controversy, as many of you maybe have already heard. So some questions that I want you to keep in mind for yourself and for your students as you approach ARTEFFECT. What can art teach us about the Holocaust? In what ways can art be used to remember the Holocaust? Should there be limitations and boundaries to the artistic representation of the Holocaust? And where should the boundaries be? Are the boundaries set in stone? Do the boundaries move as the times change? That's something we have to ask ourselves. And what is the intended message of the artwork? So again, a lot of things here to keep in mind. We're just going to keep building layer upon layer here this evening. Thank you, Connor. Okay. Now, step 2. Some of you may have seen these before. These are 10 guidelines for teaching about the Holocaust that the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum put out a few years ago. And I just do think it is worth going over these 10 guidelines. Myself, I've gone over them time and time again throughout my career, and sometimes I still look back at these to ask myself, am I on track with how I'm approaching this to my students? Because sometimes we tend to stray a little bit. So we're going to go over these fairly quickly, but I do think that this is kind of the foundation piece right here. No matter if you teach art, English, history, whatever it may be, these 10 guidelines can help guide you no matter what subject area. So we'll go through these one at a time. The first one is, it is important to define the term Holocaust. Now, you can go to various Holocaust education organizations, and they all have their own definition of the Holocaust. They are usually very similar, but there are some variations among those. So you can use the one that best fits for your school, your community, and how your system operates. I'm using the ones from the USHMM for tonight's presentation. So a historically accurate and precise definition of the Holocaust is essential, and it is part of every successful lesson or unit. Here we describe the Holocaust as the Holocaust was the systematic, state-sponsored persecution and murder of 6 million European Jews by the Nazi German regime and its allies and collaborators. The Holocaust was an evolving process that took place throughout Europe between 1933 and 1945. Now, this definition alone has some words in it that your students may not quite understand. So just going over, you don't necessarily have to go over this with your students, but it can also be a nice way to help introduce the topic. And so you might take a day just to go through this definition by looking up these different words that they may be unfamiliar with. And of course, if you're a little unfamiliar with those terms, it's okay to look those up yourself too. But many students we're seeing, in some various surveys and things like that have taken place across the country as the years go on, the Holocaust is becoming, not as well known by the younger generation. So we may think, oh, well, yeah, of course people know what the Holocaust is, but we can't always assume that anymore in today's world. Okay, number 2. The Holocaust was not inevitable. The Holocaust took place because individuals, groups, and nations made decisions to act or not to act. Focusing on those decisions leads to insights into history and human nature and fosters critical thinking. So it's important for students to realize that just because a historical event took place, it's documented in textbooks and on film and through many other pieces of literature and whatnot, but it does not mean that it had to happen. It happened because people made choices. And so we hope that they are taking that in as they're learning about unsung heroes, especially that those unsung heroes made choices, right? They made choices and had the ability to make a choice and a decision just like everyone else at that time. And that's hopefully, that key piece, right, of unsung heroes, that the choices and decisions they made were different than the majority made, and they made a true impact. Next one, please. The third one is avoid simple answers to complex questions. I know this one can be very hard from my time in the classroom. Sometimes there are very complex questions, and sometimes you just want to give one or two sentences and move on, but that can sometimes do a lot of damage for students. So the history of the Holocaust raises difficult questions about human behavior and the context within which individual decisions are made. So you have to be very wary of oversimplification. We want to try to convey that there were nuances, that there was a lot of, it wasn't black or white. There was a lot of gray happening here. And so we want to give them that time to think about the many factors and events that contributed to the Holocaust and often made decision making difficult and uncertain. We have probably heard all students, or maybe even ourselves or people in our friend group, say, well, if I was around at that time, I would have done this or I would have done that. Well, that's great to think that, but we don't necessarily know that until we are put in situations like this, which hopefully we will not be. But we want students to be able to identify that sometimes there wasn't just a clear answer of why people behaved the way they did. Again, you can take that back to your unsung hero and try to maybe have them focus on that even in their artwork, of what did their unsung hero, what was complex that their unsung hero did, and how to portray that in art. Next one. Number 4 is strive for precision of language. Because of the complexity of the history, there is a temptation to generalize and thus to distort the facts. All concentration camps were killing centers. All Germans were collaborators. We've all probably, as teachers, sometimes said something that we then wish that maybe we could have said it in a different way. And so with the Holocaust, it's really important, in particular, when we're talking about this subject matter, because sometimes this is how Holocaust denial or distortion comes into play. And we are seeing a rise of that, unfortunately, around the country. And so it's even more important in today's society to be quite precise with our language. Again, you don't have to be perfect. We all make mistakes, but just allowing yourself to go over some of these basics before your lessons with the Holocaust or Holocaust and the arts. So avoid by helping your students, you can avoid this by helping your students clarify the information presented, encourage them and distinguish, between different terms. There are some examples there on your screen. We can go to the next one. Strive to balance the perspectives that inform your study of the Holocaust. It is just vitally important that we know where our information is coming from when we're learning about the Holocaust, and making sure that we are not just learning from one source. It's nice to have a balance of maybe a mix of diaries and journals, trusted sources and websites. Speaking with scholars or researchers can really help your students create a better understanding by seeing from different perspectives. So if you do have that freedom and flexibility in your classroom to perhaps Zoom with an expert or bring in a guest that's an expert, that can be really powerful and really help students get a more full picture. And I guess I should say on back with number 5, that when we're talking specifically about art and portraying different perspectives through artwork, that last paragraph really comes into play, that we want survivor testimonies and collections that humanize individuals and the richness and fullness of their lives, not just as victims. So that's something really important to be thinking about and to pass on to your students of how just to be careful and mindful about how they represent humans and individuals in their artwork. Avoid comparisons of pain. This is one of the ones that comes up the most often, at least for me when I was teaching. Students had a lot of questions and they were very curious, which is great, and that's what we want. But a lot of times I would hear, there's probably some of you on the call, well, which camp was the worst? Or, they're curious about these things. And one of the best answers I've ever heard for something like that is, well, the one that you were in. Right? So if people are suffering, they were suffering. We don't question how much or how long. Human suffering is human suffering. So we want to avoid comparisons of pain. And also we want to avoid comparisons across different genocides. All genocides are horrible. All killing is horrible. So we want to try to really avoid that comparison of what was the worst or things of that, and bring them back to pain is pain, suffering is suffering, and it's all wrong. And we all need to try to empathize and have compassion for that. Avoid romanticizing history. This is also very hard for us just as human beings. We have that natural tendency of at the end of the story, we want it to have a happy ending, or we want to kind of tie a bow on it and say, see, it turned out okay. But unfortunately, with the Holocaust, that is just not the truth. There are some amazing stories of survival and people who helped other people, unsung heroes, right? Those are the ones that we want to highlight and that we are focusing on. But it is important that when you're studying unsung heroes, that we remind our students that unfortunately, most of the people involved in the Holocaust were not unsung heroes. They did not step up and help. They did not make those choices. And that's what makes unsung heroes even more amazing, is because they did step up and do something. So try to avoid wanting to just focus on stories or accounts or films or books or whatever it may be that has kind of that happy ending, because we need to be accurate and factual and have that balance when we're talking about the Holocaust. Contextualize the history is number 8. Events of the Holocaust, and particularly how individuals and organizations behaved at that time, should be placed in historical context. We know how the story ended. So it's easy for us to look back with 2020 vision and say, oh, well, why didn't this or why didn't that, right? Or why didn't this happen or why didn't that happen? Well, it's easier when we know how the story ends. When you're going through it in real time, you do not have that advantage. So it's very important. That goes back to the whole, well, if I would have been there, I would have done this, or I would have, well, we don't actually know that. And so we need to be careful about that. The Holocaust should be studied in the context of European history as a whole, to give students a perspective and the circumstances that may have contributed to it. And that's where I would really emphasize, if you can do a collaboration with the history teachers in your building or the social studies teachers in your building. We love to have collaboration amongst, the curriculum. So you don't have to, again, no one person has to be an expert on all of this. Lean on the other content experts in your building and in your area. It can be very powerful. Number 9, translate statistics into people. In any study of the Holocaust, the sheer number of victims, it challenges our comprehension. We hear the number 6 million, or we hear the number, 1.5 million children. It's very hard for us to actually realize how big that number is. And sometimes we try to start doing that by maybe comparing students or individuals and victims to objects or things like that. And we really want to avoid that. And we want to tell the human story. So instead of just throwing out numbers, try to pick a person or an individual and tell their story. That is what is so powerful about the Unsung Hero Project. We are getting to select one story, one individual, and really do a deep dive and lift them up. So show that individual people, grandparents, parents, children are behind the statistics and emphasize the diversity of personal experiences. I think you can, yeah, get the idea there. And the last one, number 10, make responsible methodological choices. You are all highly qualified educators. You have that common sense when you're teaching about sensitive topics like the Holocaust, that you need to be honest with yourself and your own limitations and your knowledge. You need to accurately investigate history. People were dehumanized, brutalized, and killed. And at the same time, you have to balance how you're relaying that information to your classroom so that you're not causing trauma for students. And that's going to look different in every school based on the student population. So that's why it is incredibly important that you teachers at your individual schools take this information that's being presented tonight, the information that you have learned before about the Holocaust, and making sure that it fits with your students and your community, because you know that better than anybody else. Graphic material, there's been a big shift in this with Holocaust education over the years. Back in the kind of olden days, I'll say, that was one of the main ways that people taught about the Holocaust, was to show graphic images or graphic videos. And we have since learned that that is not necessarily the best way to go about teaching the Holocaust. So I would really just encourage you, if you are going to show graphic content, to think about why. Do you actually need that picture? Do you actually need that video clip to get across the message? Or can you maybe show something else? So one example that I was taught of, maybe rather than showing a pile of dead bodies, maybe you can show a pile of suitcases that makes it more human and makes it more, just makes it more human. We do not want to exploit students' emotions, and we also do not want to exploit the victims themselves. And so that's a really important thing to keep in mind. And you know, I will say, as my travels around the world, this is one that definitely varies depending on what country you are in and where you are studying about the Holocaust. So that's been interesting for me to continue learning as I'm traveling more around the world. So you may see different encounters of this for those of you who like to travel. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and a few just kind of important things here. We want to try to stay away from simulations. Two reasons. One, we will never know what it was like to go through the Holocaust. No simulation will have us have that experience. And number two, why would we want to make someone feel like they are experiencing that? So we just want to try to stay away from simulations. It's okay if you've done one in the past. We all live and learn, okay? Gimmicky exercises, word searches, counting objects, crossword puzzles. That is not really what we're going for here with Holocaust education. We're looking for more discussion-based sort of lessons, and in the written word, having them write or journal about some of the things that they are feeling and learning about. Of course, we already went over graphic images, and it's important that we stay away from text or films, again, that exploit those emotions of either the students or the victims. Okay. Okay, so this is one of the areas where I would like to take just about a minute or so for you to write down on your paper and pencil. We're going to spend a little bit of time of your rationale. If no matter what subject you teach, if it's art, history, English, whatever it may be, what is your rationale for introducing the Holocaust to your students? Is it simply because your state has a mandate and so you have to? Is it something that you are personally passionate about, so you are making sure that it is introduced in your class? What is it? Why teach about the Holocaust? Why introduce this topic? And then the second thing I'd like you to reflect on, what are some ways that we can care for students as we educate them about the Holocaust and other genocides? Maybe you have had trainings on this. Maybe you're thinking of ideas right now of how you can best approach this with your students in an age-appropriate way. And this would be one of those that the first bullet point, if you're not sure why you're teaching the Holocaust to your students, that's something I really would encourage you to reflect on even after this presentation tonight, and maybe get together with your team at your school and decide, why are we teaching this, and how should we go about this? Of course, I do hope you are teaching it, but I think it's also important to know why you are, and the importance of it. Okay, next slide. Right, we're going to go into step 3, bridging with visual art. We're going to show a short clip here. This is from Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem in Israel. This is where I learned the majority of what I know about the Holocaust and art. They had a very powerful experience for me a couple years ago. And so I want to pass on just this short video clip that I think is kind of the essence of the Holocaust and art. So I hope you will really lock in and focus on this. Okay, so now we are going to actually look at some artwork that was created during the Holocaust by either victims or survivors. So this slide, I think, is really important. So if you want to screenshot this or jot some of these down, I think that would be great. I think they're also going to put them in the chat for when we look at the art, we can have these questions in front of us. But I am just going to go through them quickly. When was the artwork created? What events were happening in the world at the time the artwork was created? Where is the setting of the artwork, and why is that significant? You know, because maybe this was in a ghetto, maybe this was in a camp. What or who is the subject matter? Who is the artist? Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't know. What colors are prominent throughout the artwork, and what do the colors convey? What is the artwork about? Does it tell a story, evoke a feeling, document an event, present an idea? What do you think the artist was feeling? How does viewing this artwork make you feel? And how has your opinion changed about this artwork from this time you started looking at it until now? So these are questions for viewing all artwork. Of course, tonight we are going to be viewing artwork from the time of the Holocaust. So sometimes the answers to those questions are going to be very different than viewing artwork from another time period. Okay, these 10 questions are now in the chat, so thank you. We can move on. Okay, so for tonight, we have a few here. We're going to go over these fairly quickly, but this is one that is quite powerful. And so I would love if you guys, people who are here, let's just maybe look at the picture here for a minute or so. And if you would like to unmute and just point out some things that you see, that would be great. Just some quick things. Don't be shy.
You
It's
can
okay.
go ahead and unmute yourself. I know there's a way to raise your hand, but if you want to just unmute, that should work as well.
And if people are being shy, that's okay. But
The
I do
direct
want you, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
the direction of the shadow,
Mm,
something I notice. It's not there. It has to be a window or something back there.
great observation. Can a couple, the globe is half dark, someone said. Excellent observation. Couple more people like to chime in. Good. The trees through the door. Excellent. The trees are kind of hard to see, but if you look closely, I'm hoping that you are picking up on some things out there. Maybe a cane on a rock. Looks kind of stormy outside. The man with his head in his hands.
The perspective is off. We were talking about the man in the back with his hands. He's so much smaller than the globe, than the world. He's so much smaller. That's the first thing that I noticed.
Great.
And I can't unnotice that. Now I'm wondering what that is.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Some people say that the globe is focused on Europe, neutral tones. One thing that or go ahead.
I was just going to say the room looks so bare.
Yes, there's nothing on the walls there. It's very bare and blank. One thing that that hits me with this one is when I see the man, his head is like just so close to like hitting the edge of the table. Like, I don't know why. Does anybody notice there are trees outside, but how did the trees look? Yeah, barren trees, dead. We don't see a lot of vegetation or green vegetation out there. Someone mentioned the birds outside. Very good.
Fucking awful.
Hard and uncomfortable. Great. I'm loving all the stuff that you guys are putting in the chat. Thank you for contributing. So, what's important, as the woman from Yad Vashem said in the video, is then if we do know anything about the artwork, it's important that we take that into consideration. So if we click on the Holocaust artwork #1, it will tell you a little bit about this piece of art. We have the artist, we have when the artist was born and when the artist died, the name of it, where it was painted, when it was painted, the medium that was used, and the size. In the chat, there is a link there. We will post these for all of the photos that, or all of the pieces of art that we look at tonight, because there are some really beautiful and heartbreaking stories behind each of these pieces of artwork tonight. So I would encourage you. These could be great to use in your classrooms as well, like when you are just starting to approach the art and Holocaust. So maybe keep these handy and some of these links, and you could go over these with your class. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. Now, again, we don't have time tonight to go over all of these, but just right away, what do you notice is the biggest difference between artwork #1 and artwork #2?
You can see the man's face.
Yes.
I would
Anything
s-
else?
The materials and the style, it looks like it's watercolor compared to the oil painting. Or it's more washed anyway.
Great. Someone said self-portrait. There's more colors. The colors are a little bit more happier, uplifting, but yet his facial expression is still very somber. All wonderful things that you're pointing out. This is what we do, right? When we view artwork, first we just look at it and look at it deeply and take in what we can. Then we go through those questions about viewing artwork. Then we click on it and we can learn more about the artwork. And someone in the chat did say self-portrait, so I didn't want to give it away, but yes, great job. This is a self-portrait. And if you will notice the dates here of this particular artist, he survived the Holocaust. The one from artwork number 1 did not survive the Holocaust. So it is also important to have that balance too of perspective in different circumstances of the artists. We'll go on to number 3. You guys are doing a great job of participating, and I really appreciate that because sometimes on Zoom it's hard. So I appreciate those of you who are showing your face or unmuting or participating in the chat. That's awesome. So thank you. This one, of course, we have black and white. We see kind of those same sort of trees that we saw in artwork number 1. Does anybody notice one thing that sometimes we tell students, you probably know this, is to divide the picture into quarters and kind of examine each corner on its own to see if you can pick up something that maybe you didn't notice the first time around. And this one in particular, does somebody notice something that maybe others might not see right away? People on the trail, yes, good. German Shepherd. The V on the building. Very good. Person on a bicycle. Excellent.
Maybe some sort of gate in the foreground or that they
Excellent.
cross.
Yes. It almost looks like, yes, like an arm, right, of a gate that would be raised and lowered, that only certain people can come or are allowed to get in and out of this area or something like that.
And they're leading
Excellent.
into it.
Yes. There's the wagon, of course, with people in the wagon. And this line kind of seems to go on forever, right? It's just kind of like this never-ending, desolate depiction. The birds, the soldiers, excellent. Okay, we can click on Holocaust Artwork 3. This is, as many of you were noticing, a transport arrival. So they are just coming in from here. And this person was also a survivor, lived until 1983. So I'm going back kind of, if you're remembering, these pieces are kind of now layering together of, can artwork teach us anything about the Holocaust? I think the answer is a pretty resounding yes, because if students are just learning about the Holocaust, so far these images have not been graphic necessarily, but they're very powerful and we can learn a lot. And this is kind of an entry point to start talking about other aspects of the Holocaust. And so it's a great way to start with students. Okay, we can go to the next one. This one is quite different from all of the other ones. I think we can see the obvious is it's colorful. There's flowers, there's trees that are alive, there's green grass, there's vegetation. There seems to be a lot of life and joy in this particular piece of artwork. And again, I think that's important. I think that's important to show students a range that, because I think in their minds that when they think of Holocaust art, they probably think of artwork that is very somber, dark, things like that. So it's okay to show a range of Holocaust artwork. We can go ahead and click on artwork number 4. And this is, girls in the field, a survivor. We can move on. I think, is there one more? Or now this is one that was shown actually in the video that the woman from Yad Vashem was pointing out. And this one is obviously very different. What do you notice about this one? Oh, the bleeding in his hands. Great. It is more graphic. The bloody guitar, that Hitler is being portrayed as a clown, right? Like they're almost kind of making fun of him or poking fun at him. And this could be a way as maybe a coping mechanism. We do see a swastika in this one. The spotlight. Now, we're going to get to this when we move to the student artwork, but I'm glad that someone pointed out that there was a swastika portrayed in this particular piece of art. And that's something that we want to talk very seriously with our students. A lot of times students want to put swastikas in their artwork because they think that that's a necessary piece for it to be Holocaust art. As all of you know, it is not. And I would really have them think heavily of, do they actually need that imagery in there? Does it enhance their picture and their piece of art in any way? I love the comment there that just came in. Thank you for that. That's exactly what we are going for here. Yes. Okay, we can click on Holocaust number 5 there. And this is titled "The Song is Over" by someone who did not survive the Holocaust. Again, you can click on all of these links and it will give you kind of a summary or a one-pager about each of these particular artworks if you would like to use these in your classroom. All right, we can go on to the next. We're going to do just a short clip here about Irina Sendler and kind of get you thinking. You already are, which is amazing, but get you thinking about how you can use the Holocaust with Unsung Heroes and ARTEFFECT, and be thinking about how this all fits together with Unsung Heroes and about how you might approach this with your students. Here's a little clip about Irina, if you're not familiar. Okay, so as you are starting to, Irina Sendler's story is just incredible. If you're not familiar with it, I would seriously encourage you to look more into her. The Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes in Fort Scott, Kansas, is a beautiful, physical space where unsung hero projects are displayed. Student work, Artifact, and Discovery Award as well. But Irina's story was kind of the first one to be showcased there as an unsung hero. There are more than 30 Lowell Milken Center unsung hero stories that are related to the Holocaust and other genocides. So if your students are leaning towards this, subject matter of the Holocaust or genocide to do their artifact project, there is no shortage of unsung heroes on the LMC's website. As you can see, some of them here. Most of these were with the Holocaust. Carl Wilkins, of course, was with the Rwandan genocide against the Tutsi in 1994. Wonderful man. We'll be seeing some student artwork now. So just some things to keep in mind. You may have seen this before about character traits, actions, values, and visions. This wheel can be very helpful because sometimes students are still a little unsure of what an unsung hero is. And so this is a great way for students to make connections and really see if the person that they are thinking about has some of these key traits and values. And you can download that wheel there. There's a link for it in the chat. Now we're going to quickly look at some student artwork that was submitted to ARTEFFECT over the last couple years that portray unsung heroes in the Holocaust or other genocides. This would be something that I would encourage you to do on your own with your students. What does the artwork depict? How is the unsung hero portrayed? Kind of from that wheel we just looked at, the character traits and actions. What elements of the artwork are most effective in conveying the story? Remember, you have to tell your students that the general public doesn't know anything about this person or their story. So what are the key elements or the key objects or the key the scenes that must be portrayed in their artwork to make this person's story come to life, or to make the people viewing it ask, I want to know more. That's intriguing. I want to know more about this person. What can we learn about the Holocaust or another genocide from viewing this artwork? And what impact does this artwork have on you? That's very important with art. How does it impact us? Okay, these are in the chat. You can see here that, I mean, when I look at things like this, I just think, I don't know if you guys are on the same page with me, but holy cow, we have some amazing young artists across our country. So this one on the left here of the tree is one from based on Irina Sendler, the woman that we just learned about in that short video. It's beautiful. As you learn more about Irina, you can see how all these key elements really play into Irina's story. Then we have over here a ceramic, which is totally cool. Another one that was done about Irina Sendler and her putting the names into the milk jar. So again, these are excellent examples of artifact submissions. These artworks I also do want to mention, you may have just saw it in the chat, but these are also at MCAD, which is, I'm sure you've probably heard about, has recently opened in Washington, D.C. So also very cool and maybe kind of a nice incentive for your students to think that their artwork could be displayed way beyond their school walls. They can be displayed at maybe community museums or even national museums. So here is, we're just kind of showing different examples that students have submitted here. So these are fantastic. They have their artist statement there in the orange and the quote. We can see the name of the artist, their age, the medium, when it was done, and the unsung hero. So just a huge shout out to all of you teachers out there that are incorporating the artifact into the category of Holocaust and genocide art. This is a beautiful one about Sir Nicholas Winton. And I think this does a great job of asking that question, what key elements do you need to have in the piece of artwork? So if someone who knew nothing about Sir Nicholas Winton looked at this, they would maybe be able to gather a bit of information. So just beautifully done. Here's one about Carl Wilkins, the man I was talking about that was an unsung hero during the Rwandan genocide against the Tutsi in 1994. You know, this is also kind of different because Carl is still alive. So that is different than maybe many of the other unsung heroes. So that might be a conversation that's useful with your students about, is the person that you're, portraying in this piece of artwork, if they're still living, that's something to consider because they're actually going to see it probably, we hope. Again, just some wonderful pieces here. Incredibly talented artists, as I was saying, all across our country and in many different schools and all different age levels here. We have The Boy Who Became a Man. I love the colors in that one and how it's spaced. It makes my eye kind of go all over the artwork. Also another one in the MCAD, so the one up with the diary. Okay, so I am hoping that after tonight's session, you are feeling a little bit more confident about approaching the Holocaust through art with your students, that you have some places to start here with them, some examples to show them, both from people during the Holocaust and student artwork. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to help. If I don't know it, I'll say I don't know. So
Thank you, Megan. Everyone, we have some time for Q&A, so please go ahead and post a question in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself and we can take a couple of minutes to answer any questions.
Yes, thank you. You guys are so great. I see there's another Nebraskan on here, so just want to give a shout out to Jane. I see you, Jane. And so it
Megan, such important information delivered with such care for our educators and our students. Thank you so much for guiding us through all of this.
and there's a question there from Jen. Yes,
Yes.
you have more resources on the Rwandan genocide from your work there that you could share. I could, Jen, if you, um, my email was in that or the slide that was about me. Tony, do they still have access to that?
Yeah, we can go ahead and Kate can post that again, and you'll be getting a copy of it's on the lesson plan, and we'll also be getting a copy of this
Great.
desk, so you can get that.
Yes, please feel free to email with any questions. I know sometimes, just like our students, sometimes we don't want to ask questions right in the moment, but as we think about it and sleep on it, some questions may arise. So I'm more than happy to help, and if I don't know it, I'll guide you to someone who does.
Thank you so much. My name is Lalita Murali. I'm from Wisconsin. So my school district is located where we have at least 20 to 30% of the students are Jewish, so our school is closed for Jewish holidays. And of course, 70% of them are African Americans too. So I always wanted to learn more about Jewish people, their culture, so it is very sensitive, when you mentioned that swastika, you don't need to put it, but in India, swastika is a symbol in India, so we use it for peace, people
Mm,
use it, the swastika symbol for Buddhism, Hinduism, long, long, long time ago. I don't think anybody uses now. But it used to be in our ancient, you can see that, the peace. I don't know why. Maybe Hitler used that for the anti-peace. Who knows? A peace symbol or something. So this is, as Jen said, if there are any other resources that we could learn as educators, so that we could be more culturally sensitive to our students, not to talk about that, and those are all very important.
yes. Well, thank you for mentioning that and bringing that up. I think you're spot on. And just by thinking about that, I know you're on the right track because that's the first step, right? Is just thinking about it and how you're going to approach it sensitively. But again, if you have any questions or if you want more materials, let me know. I'm happy to help share.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. I also want to point out in your lesson plan, you gave us some additional resources in the references section, starter points as well. And
Great.
we've just shared some contact information for you in the emails. So thank you so much. I know I'm speaking on behalf of everyone here, how thoughtful your presentation was. You've given us such important information. I really like what you said too at the beginning about how we can take this mindful information and apply it to other contexts as well, because some of this information is applicable in these other contexts in which we find the unsung hero stories. And I also want to applaud you for guiding us through a visual arts lesson. As an English teacher, where visual arts is not your main area, but you've really also modeled a very wonderful arts integration lesson for us. So thank you, Megan. We have just a few more minutes, and so we're gonna if you have any additional questions, feel free to send them to our team or reach out to Megan, and we're gonna just wrap up a little bit with some information to remind everyone about the ARTEFFECT competition. Kate, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the competition here?
Yeah, definitely. And thank you again, Megan. That was a really heartfelt and emotional, but very intelligent and mindful presentation. So thank you so much. Really quickly, I just want to go over our competition because a lot of our ambassadors are a part of this. So we do have our annual competition going on right now until April 21st, and this is for grades 6 through 12. Half of the submission is the artwork, and then the other half is a short impact statement about the unsung hero that they chose. We have awards totaling over $35,000, and we accept all forms of art except for videos and animation. So 2D, 3D art. We love really big, large scale artworks as well. And this is a juried competition. Here are some examples, and you saw some earlier. So that's just a very quick rundown. And we have the poster as well for you to download. If anyone wants more materials, we're happy to send them directly to you at your school as well. So feel free to email us about that. And then quickly, we'll go over the steps to participate. It's pretty straightforward. The first part is choosing your unsung hero, and we have a lot of resources online to help the student choose one that's really meaningful to them and interesting to them. And the second part is reviewing the rules and guidelines, which are also online. Third step is to actually make the art and write the impact statement. And then the fourth step is to submit it. And we do this online. So they'll just take a photo of their artwork and upload it. And we're here to help you if you have any questions or issues. And the deadline is April 21st. So coming up soon, but you still have some time. And here's a quick graphic of our prize categories for this year as well.
Great. And so we also want, I think we mentioned that we have many unsung heroes from the Holocaust that can be sorted through and browsed by your students. We wanted to show you that on our website. So Connor's going to quickly give us a tour of where we can find the unsung heroes on the website and go directly to our topic for this evening, unsung heroes from the Holocaust.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. So when you go to our website, artefactlmc.org, and you click on under Unsung Heroes, the directory page, that's the page we're on here. And when you scroll down, you'll see Browse Unsung Heroes by category. So we have multiple categories that are available, but all of our Holocaust heroes are under the wartime category. And so you can click this to see all of our wartime heroes. And then actually if you type Holocaust into the search bar, that'll bring up all of our Holocaust heroes that are available. As Megan mentioned, that we have over 30 unsung heroes from the Holocaust to choose from. And you can click through any of these and you'll be able to see an image of that person here and read a little bit about their bio and see any other previous artworks that were created about that unsung hero.
Great, thank you so much, Connor and Kate. All right, so we mentioned at the beginning too that we, in addition to professional development and competition, Artifact offers exhibitions. So award-winning artwork is chosen to be featured in exhibitions at the Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes in Fort Scott, Kansas, as well as our new exhibition at the Milken Center for Advancing the American Dream, which is a new facility that's just opened in Washington, D.C. It's steps away from the White House. And this opened in September 2025. We have an artifact gallery there that's about 3,000 square feet. And here's some images from that. We've just put out some announcements about the exhibition and a press release. So we invite you to browse the exhibition, and really, really excited to feature students and educators that have been participating in Artifact and have had transformative experiences and have them share out in this venue. So please take some time to explore that. And yeah, I think that we're coming to the end. Oh, I wanted to point out, this is the last of our online sessions for the year. So I know our ambassadors have been coming all along. For those of you that are just joining or joined a little bit late into the program, you can get all of the previous lesson plans and all of the previous session recordings by visiting our website. Everything is posted online. And so we ran 4 modules this year. Veronica Alvarez is on the call this evening. Hello, Veronica. She did a session on character and values. Bradley Duke guided us through visual storytelling. Jen Braverman explored unsung heroes in STEAM. And Megan Hilberg this evening with our wonderful program on remembering the Holocaust. So all of these resources are available and posted on our website. Please check that out. And yeah, thank you again, Megan. I just want to close. We have 2 minutes, so I want to close by acknowledging everyone who's taken the time and the attention this evening on this most important topic. Thank you again to our instructor, Megan Helberg. Thank you to my team who has worked behind the scenes to make this production. Thank you to all of our ambassadors for engaging with this content, and to all of our colleagues. I see some colleagues around the foundation who have joined, Jennifer and Stephanie, to our MEA, our Milkland Educator Award recipients that are also on the call. And thank you to our newcomers and to those of you who are joining for a few times. So please send us any follow-up questions, artefact@lowmilken.org. We will be sending you a copy of this recording as well as the lesson plan. So that should be coming out to you tomorrow. And yes, thank you for a wonderful session and for all your thoughtfulness. Oh, and Kate is reminding me, if you'd like a certificate of participation for this module, we're going to post that link for you, or you can write to us at artefact@lowmilken.org and we can get you a certificate for some PD hours for this. All right, so any closing thoughts? Thank you to everyone. I say lots of thank you. Thank you again, Megan. We're going to unmute and say a collective goodbye. And have a good evening, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Wonderful. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, Tony.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.